A coup d'etat is going on in Russia as I speak. The Wagner mercenary group has started to rise up against the Kremlin. So for me that's particularly funny because I was, believe it or not, preparing an episode about is Prigozhin going to be the next president of the Russian Federation. Knowing that there is a lot of rumors and also evidence of a potential mutiny going on, I was preparing the episode already. So I was just about to go to bed, and then 38 minutes past midnight at Central European time, a friend of mine sends me this Telegram message from a Russian Telegram channel, Don't Stop War, about a 50-kilometer convoy of Wagner mercenary group heading towards Rostov-on-Don, which is a Russian city in the southwest, close to the Ukrainian border. And I was just like, oh my god, it is happening right now. I was going to prepare an episode speaking about the possibility of a coup in Russia, and then boom, it just happens. And I was like, damn, I should be live right now, right? But I don't have a live stream ready yet. I have never done that, so that was not an option. And it was pretty late at night, so I wouldn't want to disturb my neighbors either. So I just figured, hey, let's just go tomorrow. I do a completely new episode, and I'll just talk about what is happening and what has happened. Where is it going to lead? Alright, so this is now really unscripted as it can get without being a live stream, because I myself am watching right now what is actually unfolding on the ground. Now we know Wagner has actually entered Rostov-on-Don, and apparently now Ahmad forces, which is Chechen forces, are also going towards Rostov-on-Don from two sides, apparently to fight against Wagner. Now, I'm not so convinced as of now about the Chechens' loyalty, but we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Then I do have actually other reports. I'm just going to read that to you right now. Social media video calls on Russian forces to join the coup. So apparently they are now trying to get as many forces to join the coup. You know, that actually has happened before the coup even started. Russian military personnel were joining Wagner because they figured they had a better chance of survival. There was more professional leadership, they would get more money. And that includes commanders, which were maybe a bit unpleasant to the higher-ups in the Russian military because they were complaining too much about the lack of professionalism. So they would also be recruited by Wagner. So it really is. It remains to be seen, you know, just how that may go. And I personally believe, if the whole uprising begins to show real signs of success, then I believe we will see a domino effect, because then people will switch sides because they believe that's the end of Putin, so they want to be on the winning side of that civil war in the making, or that coup. So there is another one. Wagner forces enter to Lipetsk, moving closer to Moscow. Now let's check that out. Where is Lipetsk actually happen? Where is that located? Lipetsk in that's northeast of Voronezh, where Wagner's also been there. So they have actually covered a whole lot of territory already. So let me just try to get a distance measurement here, and that is 9 hours 55 minutes drive on the normal conditions, obviously by car. And that is, how much is that? 751 kilometers. Wagner has already progressed 751 kilometers towards Moscow. So that's a big progress here. So that remains to be seen, you know, just how much further can they actually go. So details: a convoy of Wagner Group forces has been spotted in the village of Krosno in the northwest of Lipetsk Oblast. Footage confirmed this has been posted to a Telegram channel covering the nearby city of Yelets. The video, which Medusa journalists were able to geolocate, suggests that Wagner Group military vehicles were traveling on a local road next to the railway tracks. A source told Medusa, it's a media outlet, he saw military personnel dressed in sand-colored camouflage uniforms, suggesting that they are Wagner private military contractors, without insignia on the outskirts of Krasnoy. Google Maps shows that Krasnoy is just over 400 kilometers from Moscow. Now I'll just get my mobile phone to check for Telegram updates. So now let's see what news we have from Slaviangrad. So apparently the Wagner Group has put some obstacles out of their way on a highway. there are situations back and forth, reports back and forth. Obviously, the ones which are close to the Kremlin, they try to deny everything unless there's no further way to deny it anymore. Let's just check with my friends has some news from the Ukrainian side. Well, if that is true, guys, my friend just posted me, Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, has fled the country and goes to Turkey. Belarusian opposition gets ready for an uprising as well. Guys, this is history in the making, man. I'm so excited about that. Unless the Chechens and a significant part of the military comes to Putin's aid, he's done. So to me, it looks like most of the Russian forces are basically told to stand down. They're either occupied in Ukraine or they're standing down. So to me, only if the Russian National Guard is really willing to die for Putin, or if the Chechens come to the aid of Putin, he is going to survive this. Otherwise, he is done. Russian media reports tanks on the streets as Putin shows real fear. Let me just read that one. Russian military forces have also been sighted mobilizing across Moscow in the wake of Prigozhin's declaration. Now that's the question. Are they coming to defend Putin, or are they going to join the mutiny? Because if they join the mutiny, Putin is done for good. And this dude is done. Then he's finished. There's no question. Yeah, and Moscow is being fortified. This is the real deal. This is not some small uprising. It's not just Wagner, because Wagner with 25,000 people could never pull this off in a country like Russia, when there's a National Guard of 400,000 people just there to defend the president, and there is still a military loyal to the Kremlin. The military is probably fed up with that war in Ukraine. So many people have died. They're being thrown into the field in there as cannon fodder. They don't really want to fight this war, the Russian soldiers. So they don't really want to be there in the first place. It's not like the Ukrainians. A lot of them don't want to be there either, but at least they have a good cause. They are defending their country. So now basically the coup seems to be off. Prigozhin has confirmed apparently that he is pulling back his troops from Moscow. So he has confirmed to pull back his mercenaries from Moscow. He reached the oblast of Moscow and was just about 200 kilometers away from the city itself, according to reports when that decision was made. Apparently a deal had been brokered with Lukashenko, the Belarusian president, and Prigozhin, that Prigozhin would actually pull back his troops to avoid a bloodshed in the capital, and that the Wagner groups would return to the bases. But that leaves all kinds of questions right now. So the coup at this moment is not there anymore. It has been called off. And Putin remains the president of the Russian Federation for now. It is completely unclear what is going to happen. Let me explain what the problem is for Putin here. Number one, he has been completely exposed as very, very vulnerable and very weak. There has not been any serious resistance that the Wagnerites were facing on their way to the capital. As a matter of fact, Prigozhin had entered the Southern Military District Command in Rostov-on-Don, and he casually was talking with the commanders there in a friendly manner. They didn't really resist at all. The National Guard was not really involved in any real battles with Wagner. Yes, the Russian Air Force did conduct some bombardments, and some planes and helicopters were apparently shot down by the musicians, the Wagnerites, the mercenaries. People have died, but just let that sink in. There was maybe like 30,000 mercenaries that just spontaneously decide, hey, we're going to leave our bases, we're just going to go to Rostov, we take over the city in no time, we take over the military command there, and then we just go and march towards Moscow. And they were not stopped until 200 kilometers before the city. They weren't even stopped there. They agreed to pull back. Okay, they agreed to pull back. They may have been able to conquer Moscow. Who knows? So we don't know. But what is clear now, Putin is very vulnerable. What is clear also is the revolution, the mutiny was not crushed at all. It wasn't crushed. It wasn't defeated by Putin. The mutiny wasn't defeated by Putin. It was merely kind of called off. And Putin, who just hours before had vowed to harshly punish the traitors, has now basically found himself agreeing that the mercenaries will not be punished and that Prigozhin is allowed to leave to Belarus, that he's not been imprisoned, that there's no criminal charges against Prigozhin. There's no criminal charges against Prigozhin. There is no criminal charges against Prigozhin for attempting a coup against Putin. Do you actually understand what that means, guys? I mean, until very recently, if you challenged Putin in Russia, you just flew out the hospital window, or you ended up dead in any kind of freak accident, or you just disappeared. That was the rule of, not just a rule of thumb, that was pretty much an iron law inside of Russia. No one dared to come and cross Putin or challenge him to his face, because that would give you a free ticket to the graveyard immediately. Alright? And now we have here the head of the Wagner organization, whom from the Russian perspective can be seen as a war hero, right? Because he was managing from the front to defeat the Ukrainians in the most fierce fought battle of the war so far, Battle of Bakhmut. So he just casually, after ranting about the incompetence, supposedly hacking into Russian state media and telling the public that it was a lie about the reasons for the war in Ukraine, that this is all a lie, blaming the generals, not Putin, that they had misled the president. And then he just casually starts to march towards the capital, bringing traversing 850 kilometers of Russian soil in less than a day with 30,000 men, and there's no one to stop him. The National Guard, which consists of up to 400,000 soldiers, maybe they were around Moscow, but where was the resistance? Where was the resistance? Kadyrov, there was reports that the Ahmad forces were basically closing in on Rostov from two sides, but I've never seen any evidence of that. Okay, so in the end, no one comes off looking good here. But the ones who really look bad is three people here. And that is, number one, obviously it's Putin, because he looks very weak. He vows to crush the rebellion. He's unable to do so. It is some kind of a ceasefire is brokered, by which means that he on television said the traitors will be punished, and then a couple of hours later said, we're not gonna go after them because we're not able to, basically, right? Second, Shoigu, the Minister of Defense, apparently Prigozhin has demanded as one condition that he withdraws his mercenary, that Shoigu will have to resign from his post at the top guy in the Russian military, just under Putin. This was one of the demands. Wagner refused to sign a contract with Shoigu. They refused to go and put themselves under the defense ministry, right? And he has made that point now. Basically, he says, look, if I want, I take the capital. No one is going to stop me. So Shoigu needs to go. This is what Prigozhin has at the moment. It looks like absolutely he has succeeded with that. Okay, so, and then there's Gerasimov. That is the commander-in-chief of all the forces in Ukraine. I mean, of the Russian forces in Ukraine. Apparently this guy has fled Rostov when Wagner came. Doesn't look very good. No resistance. He just saves his own ass, basically. So the way basically is free now, because there was a rumor that Kadyrov, Surovikin, who's the deputy commander-in-chief of the forces in Ukraine, who had been the head of the forces in Ukraine for 3 months before he was put below Gerasimov again. It was said that Prigozhin, Surovikin and Kadyrov were actually plotting together to take over the National Guard. That should be headed by Kadyrov. The Defense Ministry, which should be headed by Surovikin, and the Russian intelligence, which should be headed by Prigozhin. Now, maybe they haven't achieved this quite. They haven't quite achieved that, but it looks like Gerasimov and Shoigu are history right now, right? Putin clings to power, but it is so clear now for everyone inside the military that Putin is very, very attackable. He's very weak, and all it takes is a couple of 10,000 guys on the arms who march towards the Kremlin, and he's done. That's that. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how things are going to unfold. Is Prigozhin really just able to walk away? He supposedly has to resign as the head of Wagner, but whatever, you know. I mean, to challenge Putin like this, to start a coup, and then being able to walk away from it without any damage, without any punishment, basically. No one has ever dreamed of doing that. So Putin is in a very weak position right now. I predict that the military is going to rearrange somehow. The situation is going to change, and I strongly believe that this strongly favors the Ukrainians, of course, because there's a lot of people in the Russian military who do not really believe that much in that war, don't see the sense of it perhaps, and if the military decided now, let's take Putin out now for good, who is going to stop them? No one. Kadyrov? Forget about that. The Chechens, they have done nothing, and I repeat, the Chechens have done nothing to stop Prigozhin. The only thing that Kadyrov did was saying that they are on the side of Putin, but they didn't step in. Everyone said they are on Putin's side, but they didn't step in. Putin's days are numbered, despite the fact that he for now remains the president. I'm sure this man is finished. It just is a matter of time right now. So I think it was a very interesting day, and I believe overall it will mean that the war in Ukraine is shortened, but that's speculation from my part. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and be with me again in about 2 weeks. Take care.